Trinity 100 mark. So Trinity, this is what people are saying. Listen, Luis Rivera was doing 12 years in federal prison, and then he flips, comes and testifies, and he only gets another 7 years. So he's doing total 19. It's pretty good.
It is a pretty good deal for killing somebody, right? I mean, you got somebody that's sitting there now that's probably facing more, and someone else that's potential death penalty, right? So
yes,
he's getting off really, really good, particularly for someone that is also, you know, a gang member who may have more things out there that could come up in the future. I mean, this is good for him right now.
Absolutely. Now, the evidence shows that it was Luis Rivera who, in fact, rented that 2008 Prius in Miami and before the murder, and then returned it after the murder. Now, he testified in this case, and I want to play a little sound from his testimony. We'll talk about it. This is Agent Sanford's testimony about Luis Rivera's motive.
If there is a gun that's used in that, and that gun can be tied to interstate commerce, if the gun was produced in Cleveland, that's interstate commerce, you can prosecute in federal court.
Yes.
Meaning Luis Rivera, if the gun were found, and it could be tied to interstate commerce, could be prosecuted in federal court, right?
Possibly, yes.
Most gun manufacturers are outside of the state of Florida.
Correct.
And again, this is a guy that when he's cooperating, he's already a federal inmate.
That's correct.
With a lot of guys that have had cases dealing with interstate commerce. Right?
Correct.
Okay, let's talk about how credible Luis Rivera is. A witness actually supported the probable cause affidavit, and a witness who arranged the hotel room for Garcia and Rivera swore, at least in a statement, that he saw Rivera having in his possession a silver finish short barrel revolver handgun. So that's one fact. The other issue is that Rivera gets on the stand and conveniently says, well, I was there, I was a part of this, however, Garcia pulled the trigger. Is it just too convenient that he gets a deal, he testifies, and he's actually not the trigger man?
Yeah, I mean, there is some, convenience there, and you got to, understand, you're listening to a defendant. I mean, he is also a defendant in a couple other cases, right, that we know about. So here's someone who's, in a jumpsuit or walking in that's testifying. So there's a certain lack of credibility that he has. But the one thing that sort of rings true, right, is that he has no other connection to the Adelmans. There's nothing there that ties him to that scene at all.
Thank you.
Why would he just suddenly come forth and say, no, and even put himself in that position?
No, absolutely right. And that's a great point, because in our little circle of mistrust, poor Luis doesn't know these people.
No.
He's like, what did I get myself into? But you know what's really interesting, Trinity, is that when the evidence develops and all of everything that has come out, Luis Rivera and his wife, Jessica Rodriguez, they actually had a relationship in the sense that they would see Garcia and McManua. So initially, when we first looked at this case, you think, okay, it's Garcia who gets his friend Rivera and gets him involved. But there were times at one point, and Jessica Rodriguez told this to the police, that McManua and Garcia went to their apartment with a bag full of money, like a bag full of cash. So do you think that perhaps McManua didn't see the seriousness of the evidence until now she's sitting there on trial?
Well, I think they know that their best strategy for the two of them is to both just keep their mouths completely shut and hope that they can both point the finger at Rivera and say, we don't have anything to do with this. Because I don't know how you keep the two of them. If one of them implicates the other one, they kind of both go down.
Yeah.
I don't know how you don't both go down with that.
Trinity, now is the time to see how this goes down. Judge is back on the bench. We are on the defense case. Let's take you inside.
Thank you, Judge. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
I want to start by asking you about the iCloud extraction that you looked at in comparison to the call detail records to determine that there were some messages from the call detail records that did not appear in the iCloud consistent with having been deleted, okay?
Consistent with not being there.
Not being there, excuse me. When you were using the call detail records to come up with your 3,084 text messages, SMS or MMS messages, were you just looking at the total numbers of text messages or the actual content to confirm that they were in fact text messages?
Frankly, that's the overall number, yes.
Okay, so that's the, would you agree that sometimes when a cell phone is powered up, it receives you a notification that appears as a text message to alert you that you have a voicemail, for example?
It could do that occasionally, yes.
And that could appear to be a text message, although it's not.
It could.
So that those were not excluded from that overall 3,084 number.
That's true.
Did you also look for that same time period Mr. Zanganeh asked you about at Catherine McBanoa's call detail records compared to her iCloud messages?
The copy of the iCloud messages I had for her didn't have content to them, so I wasn't able to compare them.
Did you compare the numbers?
No, I wasn't able to see the messages that were sent and received.
So despite the fact that some of those text messages did not appear on the iCloud, there was still evidence in in Charlie Adelson's iCloud that Charlie Adelson and Catherine McBanoa were communicating.
That's correct.
And numerous of those messages were deleted.
That's true.
With respect to communications between Charlie Adelson or Luis Rivera, you found no evidence that Charlie Adelson communicated with Luis Rivera, did you?
That's true.
How many cell towers are there, cell sites are there between Charlie Adelson's residence in South Florida and Catherine McBanoa's?
I didn't count the number of towers, but it's a fair distance, so there's going to be a large number of towers.
Would you agree that the towers are closer together in a highly populated area such as the one relevant to this case?
Absolutely.
Okay. They're not miles and miles apart, these towers, are they?
That's correct.
Specifically, with respect to the time period on the morning of July 19th, 2014, between 10:02 and 10:32 a.m.?
Yes, ma'am.
We were talking about a cell site or tower that Catherine McBanoa's phone was communicating with. Do you recall those questions?
Yes, ma'am.
You would agree with me that the cell site Catherine McBanoa was communicating with during that time frame on July 19th, 2014 could be consistent with Jessica Rodriguez's house?
There was certainly intention.
Overruled.
I'm sorry, let me ask that again. Do you agree that the cell site Catherine McBanoa's phone is communicating with the morning of July 19th during that 10 to 10:30 time frame could be consistent with Jessica Rodriguez's house?
There's certainly activity during that time period that could be, yes.
Consistent with the house?
Yes, ma'am.
You mentioned that 11% of the activity for that particular antenna. Did you remember that 11% amount?
I do.
Would that be consistent with Catherine McBanoa being at Jessica Rodriguez's house as being a friend?
It could be.
And one moment, Judge.
If I clarify a point on that, when you say, I think you said 11.5%, are you talking about in usage time or in number of incidents?
Your Honor, that's the number of instances.
Okay.
I have no further questions, Judge.
All right.
Thank you.
Proceed.
You heard Ms. Norris ask you if there's any evidence of any activity between Charlie Adelson and Luis Rivera, correct?
Yes, sir.
You said no, right?
Yes, sir.
And that's because the evidence that you have is the iPhone, the one iPhone that's related to Luis Rivera, correct?
Objection leading.
Sustained.
How many phones did you make that determination of that belonged to Luis Rivera?
None.
Were you aware if Luis Rivera had multiple throw phones?
I understand there's a number of devices that have been connected to him.
Do you have those phone numbers?
I don't have them now, no.
So when Ms. Norris, when the prosecutor, asked you if there's any correlation between Charlie Adelson and Luis Rivera, you don't have all of Luis Rivera's contacts, correct?
Correct.
And if Charlie Adelson had been making FaceTime calls. Would there be a record of that in the iCloud?
There could be.
Could there potentially not be a record of it if you deleted it right after you did it?
Correct.
As someone that testifies with regards to cell usage and telephones in general, are you aware that people that are involved in nefarious activities like drug dealers or gang members often use disposable phones?
Objection, lack of foundation in
Overruled.
I am familiar with that, yes.
And is that true?
It is.
No further questions.
All right, any juror have a question of this witness? All right, if not, you may step down. Do we need to keep him further?
Not from us.
Anybody need it further? All right, here.
Okay, while we wait for the next witness to be called, we are going to sneak in a quick break. We'll get you back inside the courtroom right after this.
Best Fiends. Collect JoJo and tons of other cute characters. Solve thousands of fun puzzles. Download Best Fiends for free today. That's friends without the R. Best Fiends.
If you've been injured in an accident that wasn't your fault, and you're struggling to pay your bills while your case is dragging on, that's where Oasis Financial comes in. Only Oasis has Oasis Express Cash that can get you from $500 to $25,000 in as little as 24 hours, faster than anyone else. There's no risk and no out-of-pocket cost.
It was so simple. I made one phone call. Oasis was able to give me the money within 24 hours.
To pay for my electric bill, my rent, and my groceries for my children.
And even if you end up losing your case, Oasis lets you keep the money. So there's absolutely no risk to you. You don't have to worry about repaying Oasis.
If I had lost my case, then I wouldn't be responsible for paying the money back. And that was a blessing.
Oasis, they killed it, man. They helped me out. They gave me my life back.
See how much money you can get before your case settles. Call Oasis Financial because life moves faster than your case. 1-800-605-4381. 1-800-605-4381.
Marketing dangerous and addictive devices to children is wrong. And now teenagers are becoming addicted. If you're one of the many families affected, we want to help you. If your teenager tried a Juul vaping device and is now addicted to the device, or is suffering any respiratory or other injuries, you may be entitled to substantial compensation, but you must act now. Call 1-800-597-0000. We are Parker Wakeman. We can help. Call 1-800-597-0000 right now.
Banking with Chime is honestly one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me financially. Not waking up to hidden fees or miscellaneous charges. My name is Tibian and I love banking with Chime.
Start banking with Chime today at chime.com.
Do you sit in a chair all day long? Does your lower back or bottom ache? You're not alone. Prolonged uncomfortable sitting can lead to a variety of painful health problems. Many car seats are too firm or don't give enough support. But no more, that's over. It's time for Perfect Cushion. Perfect Cushion contains an inner layer of therapeutic comfort gel that distributes your weight to eliminate uncomfortable pressure points. It's truly the world's most comfortable seat cushion. The true secret is the perfect blend of memory foam and gel with a special orthopedic design that allows the tailbone to float above the seat, helping to reduce the stress and pressure that causes aches and pains from sitting too long. Now you can turn that hard dining room chair into a soft, cozy seat while you eat. It's got a no-slip grip surface, so the Perfect Cushion stays securely in place. Its soft fleece top lets you stay at your desk longer to get more done. It's even got a built-in handle. You can take Perfect Cushion anywhere. Use it in the car, at home, at the game, even out on the boat. If you use a wheelchair, Perfect Cushion is a godsend. And it's machine washable.
I love the gel. I really feel it working.
I sit in this chair for hours at a time, and now I'm finally comfortable.
Now, through this special TV offer, you can get the incredible new Perfect Cushion for the ultra-low price of $29.99. That's an amazing value, but that's not all. For our best value yet, order now and you can double your order and get a second Perfect Cushion free. Just pay separate processing and handling. Keep one at home and one in the office, or use your 2 Perfect Cushions anywhere you want. Call or click now to get your Perfect Cushions today.
To order the perfect cushion for $29.99 plus processing and handling, call 1-800-957-0258 or order online at buyperfectcushion.com. That's buyperfectcushion.com. Call or log on now.
Welcome back to Court TV Live. The defense for Garcia put on a bit of a case. Now we're on a break again, not exactly sure what is happening, not sure if perhaps defendant Garcia has more witnesses to call. And then, of course, does defendant McBanawa have a case to put on? We shall see. We're going to wait it out with our friend Trinity Hundredmark, criminal defense attorney extraordinaire. I know we've got you in the thick of this case. Now you're like totally obsessed like I am. So I want to go back a little bit about how the prosecution did, in fact, make an effort to target the Adelsons. They actually set up a wire, the Tallahassee PD along with the FBI. They got authorization to wiretap Charlie Adelson, and this was back in April of 2016. So way before, this is before Garcia, Rivera, McBanawa, any of them were arrested, okay? So we're gonna listen to a little bit of the sound from Agent Sanford. He testified, and this was him on direct examination talking about one of the initial calls.
What happened?
Somebody called my dad's office. They looking for him, saying that they dropped off some paperwork to them. And there was a phone number on there, and actually the person left a message with Erica. And Erica called my mom up because she's like, normally I wouldn't call you up, but at the time she got a phone call. I was like,
Where's the phone number that they're calling from, though?
I can ask Erica, but Erica said a guy by the name of Sammy called the office this morning saying that I left some paperwork with Dr. Adelson last week, and I left a number on there, and he needs to call me at that number.
No, somebody's fucking pulling your bones.
Well, this is the third.
Call the number.
Shakedown begins. Okay, so Trinity, first I want your thoughts on the propriety of using an undercover. Okay, so they've got this wiretap of Charlie, and at some point around that time, this is April 2016, they get an undercover. He says his name is Sammy, and he approaches Donna Adelson. Donna calls Charlie. Who does Charlie call right away? Katie.
Yeah, I mean, this whole case is the craziest thing you've ever, trying to figure out who did what when, and, putting all the pieces together. I mean, if I'm a juror listening to all this, right, I'm still sort of confused. I mean, just putting, and I don't know that helps the prosecution, right? Because if I'm confused, then that leads to reasonable doubt. And so I'm sitting there asking I don't understand these wiretaps. I don't understand what's going on. I don't know why we're undercover. And then we've never seen Charlie. So what does that mean?
And we're not going to, because he's not on any witness list.
Right. And so what does that mean for anybody?
Okay.
And if I'm a juror, I'm feeling like I'm missing something.
Okay. So number one, I thought the prosecution did a terrific job in her opening, painting this very clear picture. And so number one is we hope she does that in the closing, right? Okay. Do you think in closing she needs to explain where Charlie is?
Yeah, I think we've got to. I think you've got to provide them a reason or some sort of explanation. I mean, they don't have to, right? That's not they're two defendants that they're trying to,
But to get a conviction.
To get a conviction on those, they don't really have to. But I think if you're a juror, if I'm back there, and if I'm the defense, that's what I'm saying, right? Is that this was all Charlie and this was all Rivera. And these two people have nothing to do with it, right? So I think you've got to put it all together for them, or it's just going to create reasonable doubt.
Okay. They have, I mean, so far the evidence, they have the financial transactions, the following the money trail. There is consistent money going between Charlie Adelson and McBanawa. McBanawa, at one point, after the murder, she was getting a paycheck of $407.58 every 2 weeks from the Adelson Institute, handwritten, signed by Donna. And what was she doing for the Adelson Institute? Nothing.
We don't know.
Right, so she didn't really have a job there. And then there was 12 months before the murder, she was put in $15,000 into her ATM. 12 months after, there's an influx of $44,000. She ends up buying a 2001 Lexus that happened to one time belong to Adelson's.
Yeah, I mean, it is a crazy tangled web.
And you heard about Dr. Boobner? Did you hear about that?
Yeah, I did. I mean, the thing is,
but what do you? I'm sorry, but how do you? I agree with you. How do you look at these people, these 12 jurors and alternates, and look at them in the eyes and not give them an explanation?
Yeah, I think what you're going to have to do though is just say, and I think it's like you and I have talked about it, and what is obvious is, what other conclusion can you draw? All of these pieces, the money, the wiretaps, the calls, the everything, it just all comes together.
Okay, here is what my concern is. You know, there's that jury instruction where it says, disregard this and disregard that. Is there that danger? There's going to be a jury instruction that is going to say something to the effect of, you are going to hear A, B, and C names, or you have heard the names A, B, and C. You cannot speculate as to why they are not defendants in this case or why they didn't testify in this case, and you have to decide the evidence on what has been presented. That's the jury instruction.
Right.
But do they need more? Like, what can this prosecutor tell them on summation to explain why Charlie and Donna weren't part of this case?
Well, I think what they have to do is say that's not really what this case would be about. And I mean, that's the case when you have any co-defendants whose jury trial has been severed, right? You don't necessarily have the other person sitting there during the entirety of it, right? It's about that person and that defendant. And I think they've just got to make that very clear that we, in this particular situation, have the two defendants sitting together. That doesn't necessarily mean that defendant 3 and 4 should be sitting here as well. And you got to look at what we have here.
Perfect,
right?
perfect. Because you could even kind of like give them the wink, like, don't worry, we got Charlie, we got Donna, they're sitting in the back. Okay, Trinity, thank you so much. We're going to fit in another commercial. We'll get you back inside the courtroom as soon as they get back inside.
Tonight on Court TV.
In a trial with so many layers, we'll catch you up on today's biggest moments you may have missed in the murder of a Florida State law professor. Plus, we look ahead to our next case, the hitman murder trial. Jimmy Rogers faces a potential death penalty if convicted of killing Dr. Teresa Sievers, a murder prosecutors say was planned and paid for by her own husband.
Closing Arguments with Vinnie Politan. Tonight, starting at 6/5 Central on the all-new Court TV.
Uh-oh, there you go. Slow slicing fruits, veggies, and those stingy onions that bring you to tears. But not anymore. Introducing Nutria Chopper, the compact handheld speed slicer that cuts up to 10 times quicker than a knife. Watch. You can have 1 slice or 10 perfect slices at once. Amazing! You can just julienne, or you can bundle slice julienne sticks at lightning speed. With Nutria Chopper, you can slice the entire onion or mince a mound of onions and never have time for tears. Why slice a single apple wedge when you can wedge it all in one snap? Nutria Chopper comes with the razor-sharp interchangeable stainless steel blades you need to make all of the cuts you want, and all incredibly quick. Chop thick slices, chop thin slices, chop cubes, chop sticks, and wedge whole fruits and vegetables in just 1 second. Slice it and cook it right in the pan, right on your stove. Chop and slice right into the pot for a family-sized stew with no mess. Snap and slice a fruit salad for the kids right into the bowl in seconds. Slice up a healthy salad for a quick and easy meal on the go. Cube meats and cheeses quick, in a snap. And Nutria Chopper comes with a perfect portion container and fresh keeping lid so you can slice it, seal it, and store it all in one. To clean, simply rinse or rack it in the dishwasher. Then lock it to store it safely in a drawer. And now the Nutria Chopper with the thin slice, thick slice, wedge and cube blades and the slice and store container and lid, a value of over $40, is yours for just $19.99. But wait! Order now and we'll even pay the shipping for you. You get the complete Nutria Chopper set with blades and container with lids, all for just $19.99 with free shipping. Here's how to order.
To order, call 1-800-260-7637 or go online at NutriaChopper.com. That's 1-800-260-7637 or go to NutriaChopper.com. Order now.
If you've been injured in an accident that wasn't your fault, and you're struggling to pay your bills while your case is dragging on, that's where Oasis Financial comes in. Only Oasis has Oasis Express Cash that can get you from $500 to $25,000 in as little as 24 hours, faster than anyone else. There's no risk and no out-of-pocket cost.
It was so simple. I made one phone call. Oasis was able to give me the money within 24 hours.
To pay for my electric bill, my rent, and my groceries for my children.
And even if you end up losing your case, Oasis lets you keep the money, so there's absolutely no risk to you. You don't have to worry about repaying Oasis.
If I had lost my case, then I wouldn't be responsible for paying the money back. And that was a blessing.
Oasis, they killed it, man. They helped me out. They gave me my life back.
See how much money you can get before your case settles. Call Oasis Financial because life moves faster than your case. 1-800-605-4381. 1-800-605-4381.
Marketing dangerous and addictive devices to children is wrong. And now teenagers are becoming addicted. If you're one of the many families affected, we want to help you. If your teenager tried a Juul vaping device and is now addicted to the device, or is suffering any respiratory or other injuries, you may be entitled to substantial compensation, but you must act now. Call 1-800-597-0000. We are Parker Wakeman. We can help. Call 1-800-597-0000 right now.
Welcome to Court TV Live. Court is back from their recess. This is the Law Professor murder trial. Let's take you inside.
How are we proceeding, Mr. Sankina?
Judge, we're going to be arresting.
Okay, so Mr. Garcia does not choose to testify.
Correct, Judge. We had a final conversation with Mr. Garcia in the cell behind the courtroom, and we confirmed what our position had been throughout the pendency of the case. We did not.
All right, let's place him under oath, Madam Clerk.
Do you solemnly swear or affirm that your testimony will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
State your name, please, sir.
Alfredo Garcia.
And Mr. Garcia, are you currently under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or medication? I'm not picking on you. I do this in all cases where a defendant chooses not to testify. You have a good lawyer and you should consider his advice, but ultimately he's not the one on trial. Ultimately you're the one on trial, and only you can decide whether you should testify or not. Do you understand that?
Yes, I do.
I hear lots of claims after the fact of defendants come back and they say, my lawyer told me I could not testify, or somebody pressured me into not testifying. There are many things that are up to a lawyer to decide that are strategic decisions during the course of the trial, but one of the things the courts have left to a defendant to decide is whether to testify or not. That's strictly your decision. Do you understand that?
I understand that, sir.
Has anybody told you anything different?
No, sir.
Has anybody tried to pressure you into not testifying?
No, sir.
Do you have any questions about your right to testify?
No, I do not.
All right. You have a right not to testify, and if you should so decide, I will tell the jury that they should not hold that against you. You also have a right to testify. If you do testify, I'll tell the jury that they should consider your testimony just like any other witness. Do you understand those two things?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any question about that?
No, sir.
Do you wish to testify?
No, I do not.
All right, thanks, sir.
You're welcome.
So, you ready with your first witness?
If I could step outside.
I need the rest of the code.
Yeah, I'm sorry, yes. You do. All right. So I'll say call your next witness and you rest.
Thank you so much, sir.
All right, let's have a jury.
All rise for the jury.
All right, everybody be seated. Mr. Sanguinet, you may call your next witness.
At this time, the defense rests.
All right. McFadden, will they call their first witness?
Yes, Your Honor, I'm going to step outside.
Thank you, Judge. The defense calls Investigator Dillmore, who's just gathering up his gear to get his laptop on.
And I believe you testified before, did you
Yes,
not?
sir, I did.
All right. You remain under oath.
Yes, sir.
You may proceed.
It's up here.
Investigator, good afternoon.
Somebody else this thing?
Not on.
I guess this was Mr. Sawicki. May I proceed?
Thank you, Your Honor. Investigator Dillmore,
Yes, sir.
how are you?
Good, thank you.
Again, you work for the Technical Operations
Just for
Unit.
the record, state your name again, please, sir.
Investigator Mike Dillmore, Dilmore.
Now, you testified earlier in this trial, but you were in uniform, right?
Correct.
You have a camera up on your
Yes,
right
sir.
shoulder.
Yeah, I came straight from the office that day.
When we called you before, you were talking about the Apple iCloud, and you had explained how the information could show up on my phone, and you explained Celebrate and all of that.
Yes, sir.
All right. With your work on this case, correct me if I'm wrong, that in May of 2016, you received 2 LG phones.
Yes, sir.
Now, the Technical Operations Unit, specifically yourself, worked on an extraction report for both of those phones, right?
Yes, sir.
One of the phones, the device name was an Optimus 560.
Yes, sir.
Now, your understanding is that those phones were the result of the arrest of Secreto Garcia.
Yes, sir. I believe so.
Prior to your testimony today, I had given you a CD and some information of stuff to review before today. Have you had an opportunity to review it?
Yes, sir.
In your examination of the extraction report, did you find that there were communications with phone number 305-563-3341?
Objection, relevance.
Let's go that way.
Okay, let me bring in Trinity Hundermark. So, Trinity, are you surprised that Garcia didn't testify?
No, I don't think it ever really surprises a defense
How
attorney.
did I try to keep that straight face?
Yeah, I don't think it ever surprises a defense attorney when a defendant doesn't testify. I mean, that's typically your advice. It's usually not in your best interest, and a lot of people think that means that they're automatically guilty, but it doesn't. It's just when you get up there and you get subject to cross-examination, anything can happen. I mean, and I've been cross-examined. I mean, it's even as a trained lawyer, it's scary.
Yeah, no, me too. I've had to testify.
So I mean, it's
And
you
it
know,
is.
I mean, under the best of circumstances, you can't plan for what's going to happen.
Now,
So,
do you think though? Okay, so part of the reason he may not have testified is that Garcia may have a criminal record, which could have been brought out if he testified under certain circumstances. So putting that aside, if he got on the stand and said, Rivera pulled the trigger, I didn't do it, and then he could explain all that contact with Katie McBanoa because they have kids together. I mean, there was somewhat of a defense there.
Yeah, I mean, my guess is it's just too muddy, right? I mean, it's just too difficult, and nothing is ever perfectly clean, right? I mean, so, you know, who knows whether he'd had conversations about it or had some knowledge about it. I mean, we just can't know what is out there, and it's just usually safer to just not put it out there.
Absolutely. Now, looking ahead, we've started the case, Katie McBanoa's defense. Do you think that, let's say she has no record, never been arrested, should she perhaps think about testifying?
I mean, she could if there's no record there, if there's no, you know, bad facts, unless, you know, again, without looking at all the discovery and all the information, anything else, you know, we just don't know what's out there or what could be used against her, right?
Well, what her defense team did very well, I think, through the prosecution's case, is they just basically say, here's all the evidence. You got an ex-boyfriend, and there's a lot of phone calls to an ex-boyfriend, boyfriend at the time. You have money going back and forth, again, to a boyfriend.
Right.
You have 2 kids. You have this on-again, off-again live-in partner. Sometimes maybe you're having an affair almost with Charlie Adelson. So Katie seems to have at least something to explain all the interactions with Adelson. She was not present at the murder. So when the murder occurred on July 18, 2014, I believe that she was in Miami. She wasn't in Tallahassee. So she does have things to work with.
Right. And she does, but again, you just can't predict those moments. And even under the best of circumstances, you know, it's so scary, especially as a lawyer, to think that, you know, everything is going to be in the hands of that person that's sitting there, and you could never prep them enough. I'm not saying there's not situations where it needs to happen, and it does. But it's just a scary thought.
It's dangerous.
Yes.
But you never know. She could charm them. She could get emotional, talk about her 2 children. She could turn this around for herself.
Could, but I mean, it's just, I don't know. I think you start playing with those payments, playing with the, you know,
Trinity,
the
we're going to
job.
go back into court. Okay, let's listen in. Thank you.
3-3.